All right, good afternoon, everyone. This is Derek Lokowitz. I'd like to welcome you all to our Lunch and Learn event on the Acumatica distribution edition. Joining me today, excuse me, is Jay Porras and Bob Donald, who are going to be our presenters. Before we get started, I just have a couple of quick housekeeping items. First, we're recording today's presentation so that people can review it later. And as such, we've got everybody here on mute to avoid any background noise. You'll still have the ability to interact with us by asking questions or raising your hands via the GoToWebinar interface. So feel free to utilize those tools to interact with us as much as possible. We will be setting aside time towards the end of the presentation to answer any questions that might come up, so definitely don't be shy. Second of all, you should have all received your Grubhub vouchers. If you're new to our presentations, you would have received a welcome email from Grubhub with instructions on setting up your account. If you've been with us before, the voucher would have just automatically been added to your account. Please make sure to use it today because it's only good for today. So with that, let's go ahead and get the ball moving. All right, so let's take a quick look at our agenda. And sorry, I was getting a notice about my screen sharing. So like I say, as you can see here, we've got Jay going to be going over a little bit about Donist, as well as run through the slides a few slides on Acumatica. And then after that, Bob's going to pick up and talk about not the manufacturing demonstration, but the distribution demonstration. He'll hand it back to me. We'll go over a couple of Q&A things that you've got going on, and then discuss some next steps, and then we'll wrap things up. So hopefully we've got a good 45 minutes, 50 minutes of presentation. So we will definitely try to make the most of our use of our time. And let's see here. I'm going to go ahead and switch things over to Jay. Give him just a sec. Hand that over to him. All right. Jay, you have control.
All right, we all connected here?
Yep, I see it right there. Good job.
Okay. Well, anyway, thank you, Derek, and thank you everyone for attending today's session. Since 1996, 25 years now, the Donist Group has been working with a wide variety of customers in many industries, including distribution customers. We attribute our longevity to our commitment to staying current technologies and certifications. This has allowed us to support and service our customers and develop long-term relationships. Developed for resilient businesses, Acumatica Cloud ERP is the most usable, adaptable, and affordable business management solution available today. Built for mobile and telework scenarios, it easily integrates with the collaboration tools of your choice. Acumatica delivers flexibility, efficiency, and continuity of operations to growing small and mid-market organizations. With internet availability, you can connect your system with many of today's interactive devices. Whether it's desktops, smartphone, laptop, or even Alexa, you can access and work from the location of your choice. There's no per-seat premium, so your technology can scale with your business instead of being a drag on your growth. Every authorized person can access, create, and receive the information they need to drive business, regardless of whether they're frequent or casual users, internal employees, external vendors, partners, or customers. With Acumatica's flexible consumption-based licensing plans, you only pay for the computing power you need. Our pricing is designed to be stable and predictable, geared to your growth. Unlike other ERP offerings, Acumatica has a multiple deployment option to meet your organization requirements. They include SaaS, or software as a service, which is hosted in the cloud and is offered on a subscription basis. AWS is Acumatica's preferred public cloud platform. Private cloud is also subscription-based, and here you host the application where you want on your premise, or if you desire at a third-party location. And the third option is the perpetual traditional method. Here you purchase the software up front and pay an annual maintenance fee. You have the ability to move between options if you need to. Acumatica is committed to customer success. Acumatica's Net Promoter Score is quite commendable. The Net Promoter Score gauges the loyalty of a firm's customer relationships and ranges between minus and plus 100. A positive 50 is considered excellent. Some other examples of companies that you probably are familiar with: Southwest Airline comes in at 3, Disney comes in at 11. In the 10 plus years of Acumatica's existence, they've averaged 700 customers a year, or about 2 a day. The NPS plus Acumatica's high support satisfaction are reasons why Acumatica is the fastest growing cloud company. The Net Promoter Score that we just saw is one of the inputs for the results of this G2 customer satisfaction survey. Released earlier this year, Acumatica ranks highest among the leading ERP offerings in customer satisfaction. From sales orders to advanced financials, Acumatica's Distribution Edition covers all activities that distributors require for success in the business. As with all of Acumatica, the mobile applications integrate seamlessly into the Distribution Edition, providing real-time information into your business. Sales order management provides complete visibility into the activity your organization requires to meet customer needs. Configure actions, notifications, and alerts to automatically trigger events during order processing. Lot and serial number tracking provide accurate control through all activities within the organization. A one-size-fits-all valuation of your inventory is not always desirable based on the nature of your items. Acumatica allows for you to value items by standard, average, FIFO, and item-specific costing methods. Non-stock items are always at standard cost. Stock items can be set to any of the above methods that I described. From submitting POs to multiple locations, drop shipments, or blanket orders, Acumatica allows you to place orders that best meet your price and delivery requirements. Create multiple approval paths to match existing business practices. Save time and eliminate paperwork by automating the requisition process, streamlining the vendor bidding process by emailing requests to multiple vendors. Audit trails track all transactions, including the identity of users who entered, approved, and modified records. Acumatica Mobile integration helps keep your inventory accurate and up to date from PR receiving, put away, picking, and shipping. Here you see distribution types served, but Acumatica Distribution Edition is designed for any business that needs to control what is most likely the largest asset of the business, and that is your inventory. Now I'll pass over to Bob, and he'll give you an overview of the distribution product.
Good afternoon, everyone. I would like to thank you and welcome you to our Acumatica Lunch and Learn event for the distribution module. I'm excited to walk you through this and show you all some of the details as we go through this. Acumatica has been and is in the forefront of ER development for the cloud. This product was written specifically for the cloud, so it's not a legacy software that got a facelift to make it look good in the cloud. It was written specifically for it. Of the employees at Acumatica, over 75% are dedicated to development. So they have a strong belief in their product. They rely on companies like the Donis Group to sell and install their product. This is really what I would call a business management software. Acumatica is the bucket that acts as the single source of truth for your entire business, from the front office to the back office. As I said, Acumatica is browser-based in the cloud. It is supported by most browsers in use today. The access is role-based, which means every person who logs into the system, and I don't recall if I heard Jay mention it, but you have unlimited users within the system. So every single person within the organization has the ability to log into the software at no additional cost. Each person who does log in are assigned roles, and these roles then define the security that's within the software. Since it is in the cloud, your data is accessible to you and your staff anywhere you have internet-capable device and an internet connection. The system is designed to be configurable, so the whole idea was to minimize using a programmer to customize the look and feel of the product. Changes can be made fast with no code changes. These changes are then tied to a role or an individual. This is a multi-company, multi-currency product. Everything you'll be seeing today is standard Acumatica right out of the box with no customization or third-party products. That being said, there is a huge community of ISVs or independent software vendors that provide additional functionality to our base software. And a good example of that would be EDI as an example of the ISVs. I'm going to start us right here on what we call the dashboard, which we're seeing here. This is completely configurable by the end user. This one happens to be called for the controller. Now the system comes out of the box with approximately 30 dashboards of things that the developers felt people would find of interest based on the different roles. That doesn't mean you can't change them or you can add your own. That's the beauty of the product. All of these displays are live data, are updated in real time. The dashboards support an unlimited number of reports. This screen is showing approximately 13 different reports because each one of these actually represents a report behind the scenes. Every one of them has drill down capability, and each login can have their own unique dashboard. And since you have unlimited logins, there are unlimited dashboards. These are very easy to create and change and are designed to be done by the user if they choose. For instance, if I go into the design mode and I decide that I wanted to move a box over to the left or to the right, it's just a drag and drop, and I'm looking at the information that's behind the scenes. This I started with the controller dashboard, and this selects the dashboards that allow us to look at different things within the system. Like, whoops, we have no cash on hand, but cash required, cash balances. All of these are actual drill down reports that we can look at, overdue balances. If I shoot over to, and I'll get into the favorites in a moment, I'll go over to my sales manager dashboard. You'll see here where we're controlling things under the CRM module. You're seeing a lot of key product performance indicators, or KPIs as they call them. We're seeing what are our wins, what are our losses, what's the deal size trend, what the people on my team, what are their booking, what's the growth. If I scroll down, because I said I can have multiple reports, year-to-date sales versus quota by my sales team, sales activities, what's going on with them. The neat thing here is that you define what all of these applications are. Now, if I go over to the customer view, this basically is a top-down picture of what's happening with your customer. When you're looking at it, you can see things like orders to ship, late orders, open opportunities, overdue opportunities. You can see sales order trend by month, items purchased in the last 12 months, recent activities. Again, every one of these is its own unique report. Now, if I decided to go and look at a particular customer, I'll pick on my USA bartending. Now, you'll notice I don't have to type in the full name. It has a type ahead, and USA happens to be part of the name, so that it found it immediately for me. So now all of a sudden, my view is just for that customer. And then I can look at it and I can see opportunities. Like if I click on opportunities, which is part of our CRM module, which by the way is an entire dedicated Lunch and Learn, we can look at opportunities that we have open for this customer. So in this particular one, I have one opportunity, and it's in this case, it happens to be for some professional services, who's involved with it, and the time that's involved. Now this was just one customer. If I go back and I clear this out, I'm back to seeing the view for all of my customers. Now, if I go back to open opportunities, you'll see I have 151. Now, what's nice about this is I can then see I've got my opportunities IDs, the subject, and so on. If, for instance, I wanted to, one of the fields that's important to me is status. So if I want that to be right up front, I could just grab that column, move it over to the left, and it's now the very first thing that I see here. Also, let's say on status, if I only want to look at particular items, let's say I only want to look at items that were 1. I would click on the down arrow and it should bring me up a checkbox. The other thing that it's important is it's bringing that up. Well, I can see here, if I clear them all and I say I only want the 1s, you'll notice in the status as it builds, whoops, everything here. And also I can color code, by the way. So lost, I happen to have color coded as red. 1, I happen to have is color coded as blue. Each of these tabs across the top of the screen are different inquiries into this data. So, and they just happen to be ones that were saved at any given time. For instance, if I look at the 1 version of the report, here's everything that's here. If I look at the inquiry of it, all it's doing is very simple, plain English, which is why you have complete control of this, is that you can say, this particular version of the report is on the status field, which is we have here, when the condition equals, and it's all algebraic, and I say the word 1, or the letter, not the letter 1, but the word 1, that becomes that report. And so on. I've got lost, unassigned. Unassigned is an important thing because as leads come into the system, they start off potentially as unassigned. Then it sends a message to the sales manager, who then determines who gets the lead assignment. When that lead gets assigned, and we'll talk about this a little bit later, that lead assignment is then sent as a text message to the person it was assigned to, so that they now know that they've had the lead assigned to them. Let me go back to my customer view. One of the things I really like about this is that everybody's always looking for, what is that 360-degree view of the customer. I want to see everything going on with it. So within this screen, I can basically put all kinds of parameters of things that I want to watch when I'm looking for that customer. The same goes for, let's see, if I'm a salesperson on staff. When I have this, it's talking to me, just me in particular, because I'm logged in. It gives me, what are my new leads? What am I, do I have any contacts, calls that I have to make? So there, you can set up activities to remind yourself that you need to follow up with somebody 14 days later. It actually shows up in your process list as an activity that needs to be done. On the left-hand side of the screen here, I want to kind of call that, this is what we call the workspaces. Now, as you notice here, it's got everything. It's got, bills of material requirements, planning, and so on. The workspaces are controlled by your role. So based on what your role is, you're only going to see those items that your role is involved with. So for instance, if I'm a customer service representative, I'm not going to probably see estimating and finance and payables and payroll. So you only see those items that you tend to work with on a day-to-day basis. But if I go into the workspaces, I'll pick sales orders. This is broken out into a couple of different areas. I've got these tiles across the top, which I've created, which are the most active things that I do. And then there's all these actions within the system. You'll see as we go through different workspaces, they all have the same type of format. There's transactions, operations, profiles, and so on. What's nice is if I look down at the bottom, you see this show all. This is actually a minimized version. If I type show all, these are all the items that were hidden behind the scenes. So, and what that does is you control, each person who logs in controls what they see and what they don't see. If I go back to the minimize, you'll see all these reports. If I go in and let's say I take off get rid of everything but 2 of them, and go back to my, all of a sudden now it's already automatically changed my reports down to 2. One of the things that you've seen me go back and forth to a couple of times is this bar here in the workspace called favorites. Anything in any menu can be made a favorite. For instance, I made customer profiles a favorite. You'll see the little gold star. Otherwise, they're empty. All I have to do is click on it, and it becomes a favorite. So if I went back to my favorites bar, I'll now see the shipments, which is now under sales orders. And it's a simple matter of just clicking on it to take it off. One of the other things, one of the other things I wanted to show under opportunities, by the way, was on the far right side. I mean, I can look at, I have the ability to click on any individual item, and it'll go down into the actual opportunity itself. So I've got that, I can do it that way. And here's my opportunity and all the information along with it, any activities that are involved and so on. The other way I can do it is I can click on this $ over here, and on the far right hand side of the screen for this item that I had selected, it should then give me the exact same information here. So I don't have to leave the screen to see the information. Another thing I wanted to bring up before we get too far into it is we also have what's called a universal search within the product. This is, I think, very unique for us in that when you type in anything, I'll type in USA, for instance. The first thing it does is it comes back and says, well, are there any menu items? Well, no, because that happens to be a customer. If I click on transactions and profiles, it all of a sudden has now found all of this activity for this particular customer. It's got some sales orders, some shipments, and so on. And I can actually drill down into each one of these. We also have what are called help topics. We have very extensive help built within the system that covers virtually everything you can do within the software itself. Each one of these sometimes has many drill downs within it, but you can then look up things as you're working within the system. If I go to, let's see, I'm going to go the long way. I'm going to type in USA in my search. I'm going to find a sales order. And then within the sales order, and we'll be going into the sales orders in a moment, one of the things that you'll see are these little pencils that are next to different fields. If I click on this pencil, it actually takes me right to the customer card. There's any number of ways I can actually get to the customer card. I just chose this particular one. It's sleeping on me. So this is the main customer card. There's quite a few areas to cover in it, but it has things like open balance, credit limits, accounts. It's got financial settings, so we can talk about, what agreements they have, what their credit limits are, phone numbers, and so on. Any billing requirements within the system, whether they pay by check or credit card within the system, so that it's automatic when you enter an order for it. What locations service that customer? We are a multi-warehouse system, unlimited number of warehouses. And this one that we define which warehouses service that particular customer. Under payment methods, these are all the things that are approved for that particular customer. Contacts for the customers, we have unlimited contacts within the system, so you can have different contacts for different departments within the customer. Under salespeople, you can have multiple salespeople within the account with different commission percents based on their activities within the customer. Attributes, if there were any, activities within the system. We haven't done any tasks that we've got open. I think there's a few here. I mean, these are things, follow-ups primarily within the system. Mailing settings are for emails and so on. So you have a lot of control within the system itself. Another thing on the and then I'll leave the universal search, is it's also involved in different functions within the system. So in this case, I typed in 1099. Now this time around, because it's a function, it actually found the 1099 on a number of menu options within the system. If I did transactions, it would show 1099 transactions, obviously the help topic. And if there were any 1099s waiting to go out, it would show up into the files section. So now we're actually going to go to the meat of it, which is the sales orders itself. So if I go to the sales orders and I click new sales order, I'm going to go here. I'm going to, again, using my type ahead, USA bartending. Now you'll notice that the screen is split up into two parts, top half and bottom half. The top half is the customer-based information. The bottom half is the actual detail within the order. So what I can do here, for instance, is I can create a header note. And you'll notice that this now changed from a blank page to, hopefully it shows up as yellow on your screens, but there's a, the icon is now changed in mine from a blank to a yellow to let me know that there are notes behind the scenes. Oh, that's right, I have to save it before I can do that, so I'm going to skip that for the moment. So this was the header part of the information. One of the nice things we can do, for instance, let's say somebody sent you a hard copy PO and you want to make that as part of the document of this order. I can go into files. Need to be saved. Okay. All right, let me save it. And I'm going to do a purchase. Make sure I've got the copy of the purchase order. I'm going to upload it. So what this now shows is that this purchase order, which created this sales order, is now linked to permanently to this order. So from this point forward, from a historical standpoint, if I need to look at whether it be a contract or a note or the purchase order, I can actually then tie those together and see what's going on with it. One of the other things that you can do under activities, now it should actually let me show, you can actually, this is where I can add tasks to the system. One of the things you can do is you can automatically have the system send emails, for instance. So every time an order is entered in the system, it can then send an email acknowledgement to the customer. I should mention I'm doing everything manually at this point because I want to show all the different steps. And there are a lot of things, there are automations built into the system where you can do things that are set automatically. So for instance, I wouldn't have to tell it the email. as soon as I save it, it would know to go ahead and email it, or it could even batch them as an email. One of the other things that we can talk about is we also have what's called user-defined fields within the system. So if I click on this, you have control over additional fields within the system. And in this case, I happened to pick industry, which was a drop down, and I also did an overstock installation. So as you add user-defined fields, they'll just start building up on the screen here, so you can add additional information to that order itself. What I want to do, here is I'm going to do a quick add of an order, just so you see. I'm going to pick, again, type ahead works for everything within the system. I'm going to order Acer computer. I'm going to pick one of them. And then basically, again, unlimited lines within the system. They can come from different warehouses. Generally, people don't, but you can have multiple warehouses within the same order. Now, if I want to, I can do what's called a quick process. So in other words, if everything is right and I want to go ahead and do it, I want to do one other thing before I do that. I want to change my shipping settings. We're going to see this a couple of different times. I'm just going to click on shop for rates. And I'm going to refresh them. We're online with both UPS, FedEx, and the US Post Office. It's usually through stamps.com. But let's say I want to go UPS ground. What the system also does is, since within the item file, one of the pieces of information in the item file is volume. So I know what kind of, also add boxes. So I know what boxes are available to me and what items fit in what boxes. So what it's telling me here is it's telling me which box to use, and here's my freight costs involved with the system. Now this is when I say freight costs, this is your cost in freight to the item. You have the ability to set up the freight terms, so you can say, whatever my cost is from UPS, add $5 shipping and handling or something. You have the ability to control what that is, so that gets added to the aggregate total for the freight to that particular customer. If I do quick process at this point, and I'm going to do it for today, I'm going to tell it, I want to prepare the invoice, and I want to email the invoice automatically, and I'm going to release the invoice to the accounting department. So if I click OK, behind the scenes, and it's letting me know as it's doing it. So it's created the shipment. And it will also create the invoice for me to bring up on the system as well. So here it's relieved the inventory. So it created the shipment, it's relieving the inventory, and I believe the next one should be the invoice. Yeah. Now, the neat thing here is I can click on this one and look at the shipment. And there's my order. And if I look at my packages, you'll see that it told me that I used a medium box, I shipped it out UPS, and oh, by the way, here's my tracking number that came out that was created for that order. And this little yellow icon over here tells me that there's a file attachment. And if I click on that, there's my label that was created for the order going out the door. Whoops. I just logged myself out. Didn't mean to do that. Here we are. So what I'll do again now is I'm going to do a new order. Now there's another couple of different ways that we can add items. As you saw, I could bring in a file from the PO, but what I can also do is there's a little icon here for the file. So let's say I've got customers, there's a couple of ways orders can come into the system. One is just the normal classic enter an order into the system. They either called it in or they faxed it to me or emailed it to me. Another way is through EDI. EDI within the system automatically generates the order and it becomes an open order within the system. You can then determine whether those orders go on hold so that they're reviewed or just automatically flow through the system, because then you use the pricing logic built into the system itself. In this case, I'm actually going to tell it that I'm going to use a download file. So I'm going to choose a file that I have out there. Nothing more than a standard Excel spreadsheet. It's a template that you can supply to your customers, and they can fill it out and send it to you via email or into your system. And I'm going to upload that file. This is good for items where there's multiple items on an order. You're not doing a lot of typing and mistakes. It's just verifying my conversion. I've got this set up to ask every one of them. Normally, you would not have to ask these questions. And it's verifying the fields within the Excel spreadsheet. Then what it should be doing is it's populating my order with all the items that were on the spreadsheet. And here they all are. What's also nice is that using the file activity, I can then take that same Excel file and save it as a document that's part of this order. Again, documenting the entire process of this is what they ordered, this is the file they sent me, this is what we created, it went out the door. For instance, and then I can go, if I look at this, let's see if I find one that's got something in it. Yeah, here's one. Yeah. Just by clicking on the inventory item on the order itself, it'll take me right to the inventory file for that particular item. So I can see things like, the item class and whether it's, in this case, it happens to be a finished good. As Jay was talking earlier, how is it being costed? I've got it as an average costing, whether it's taxable or not. I'll bring this up because of the distribution side. We fully support sales tax software, mostly from a product called Avalara. So we can do sales tax in all 50 states. Which warehouse is the normal warehouse for the item? Pricing and costing information, last cost, average cost. If it's a manufactured item, it would have information there. Warehouses, where is it stored? Who do I buy it from? In this case, I only buy it from one vendor, and that's who the vendor happens to be. If I have attributes on the item, I can store pictures and all kinds of things that are involved with it, but be they dimensions or specifications. Packaging, what type of packaging is used. This is how the system is smart enough during order entry to know what kind of box to use when I actually ship it out the door. If there are any cross references, in other words, if a customer has a different part number for my part number, I can cross reference the two. Replenishment information that's used for purchasing, and deferral settings are just basically background settings for the item. So by just closing that out, I'm back at my order. Another thing we can do, I'm going to create a new order. I'm not even going to save this. I'm going to create a new order, again, using my USA. And then what I can do to add lines, there's a thing here called add stock item. Now that's kind of a neat feature, because what it does is based on this customer, when I click on this, it goes out and looks at everything that this customer has bought from me in the past. So I know these are all the items that I've sold them. These are the warehouses it came from. It's giving me a quick quantity on hand of the items that I have. And I can then go through and pick different items. So let's say I want to sell a Acer laptop. I'll just sell them one of those. And I'm going to sell them some, actually, and I'll do some Legos. So I just pick and choose. It's kind of like a notepad for during order entry. And if I just do an add and close, closes out the screen and will automatically add those lines to my order for me without me having to even type them in. Now, another thing that can be done, which works very similar to this, is we also fully support what's called a customer portal. So what customers can do is, again, because you have unlimited users within the system and unlimited roles, you would then have them log into the portal and they can look at things like, what's my open AR balance? What are my open invoices? What items have I ordered in the last 12 months? What's the status of my open orders that I currently have in the system? They can also do things like look up shipments and see tracking numbers. So in other words, instead of calling your CSR people and saying, hey, what's the tracking number on this? What's the status of this? They can actually log into the portal and do that work without interfering with what the CSRs are actually doing, which is taking orders. They also have the ability to place orders. So what happens is they'll place the order. They can say, I ordered this before, place it again, and it creates an order in the system, but it puts it on hold. And then then there's a notification to the CSR department, which says these orders came in through the portal, you need to approve them, and then they become real orders within the system. So it's kind of neat that way. Also, with a lot of these columns, some people, if I scroll, you'll see there's actually a lot of information on this order. So a lot of people don't care about all this stuff to the right. So what you want to do is you can take the data, the fields, and you can move, again, just like all the reports, you can move them anywhere you want. And it stays there for you. Also during order entry, a couple of different things you have control over. And they can be automated or they can be manual. If you're in a purchase to order environment, you can have the sales order automatically create purchase orders, either drop ship or purchase orders or direct ship purchase orders to you for those items that you purchase only when your customer orders them. You also have the ability, if you're in a make to order environment, to have the system generate a work order for that item that just came in from the customer. So there's a lot of saving of extra typing and making mistakes. It's all tied together. And then what happens is now the purchase order, if it's a purchase order, the purchase order is linked to the sales order. If it's a work order, the work order is now linked back to the sales order as well. So again, you have a complete continuity of data within the system. Let's see. I did that. Oh, I know what I wanted to do. One other thing in sales orders. Got carried away. I meant to show this earlier when I accidentally logged off my system. Let me set this up again for UPS. I'm going to do my quick process again. And as you see here, I'm checking print invoice, email invoice, and release invoice. I'm going to take print invoice off for the moment. And again, it's doing the processing in the background. Actually, the last thing I wanted to show on here was the invoice itself. This happens to be the invoice, and under reports, I just wanted to show the format. We have two report writers built into the system. One is for all the forms, so you can change these forms any way you like, put your own logo and items on it. That then format becomes the email format as well, so it can go out as like a PDF. So they're completely controlled within the system. Export, I should say that we can, within the system, and you'll see a lot of these, we are native with Excel, so that anything that, any data report that you see, any screen inquiry, everything can be exported to Excel. We also support quite a few imports from Excel into the software to save a lot of data entry. As I mentioned, we fully support credit cards. We work with a company called Century Business. What's nice is within the credit card entry, we do not store the credit card number itself. We store what's called a token, and that token is stored at a company called Authorize.net, which is a huge credit card clearinghouse. So from a liability standpoint, you have absolutely no credit cards stored within your system. It's just the token, and that token is then a key into Authorize.net to actually get the information. So you have the ability to save someone's credit card per se and use it for future orders, or again within the portal itself. We have within the CRM, we have full CRM integration within the system. Like as I mentioned earlier, there's an entire lunch and learn just for the CRM. One of the other things in terms of working with this, and I mentioned it briefly, I think, and Jay had it on one of his slides, is our mobile app. Now, what I'm doing here is I'm running this on my iPhone. It's supported on Android as well as Apple operating systems. It also is on tablets, which could be both Android and Apple as well. And what we do here is on the handheld, and all I'm doing is sharing my phone to the screen. So as I'm doing things on the phone, you'll see it. One of the nice things here is anywhere you can be in the field, just about to walk into a customer, you can look up all kinds of information. And you'll notice it's got everything from expense reports to leads to opportunities, contacts, even some cash transactions. It's got purchase orders on it. It's got requests, all the way down to our field service module. So for example, if I go into expenses, expense claims, for instance, you'll see that I've got a couple of them different ones out there. If I click on one, these have all been turned in, and it's got all the information that's required from the salesman as he turned in his expenses. Also, if you see down towards the bottom, you'll see the word files with a 1 next to it. What this gives you the ability to do is to take pictures of receipts and include them as part of the expense. This is also true, like for instance, on the field service module. If people are out in the field doing service on a particular item, they can take pictures of the item and include that as part of their report. And again, as you see here, everything, for instance, here, let's see. For instance, purchase orders. If I wanted to look at all the purchase orders on the system, here they are. Anything I can do on the system, I can do it here, and it's real time. So it's not waiting for an update to happen an hour later or overnight. As I make changes on my mobile device, it's actually changing it in the cloud database as well. So everything is real time. I'll just minimize that. One of the other things that I wanted to talk about briefly is we talked about notifications. Within the system, I keep talking about notifications for this, notifications for that. Within the system, we have what's called business events. And in these business events, we define things that are going to happen or when they're going to happen. So for instance, new lead assigned, for instance, there's one I'd pick. Under new lead assigned, you determine what are all the different things that happen with it. And if I look at subscribers, for instance, if I look at email notification, what happens is when in this case, in my particular one, when a new lead is assigned to a person, it generates, in this case, an email. It could be a text message as well. But here's where you define the body of that email or the body of the text. The neat thing here is that these are all what they call tagged fields. They're hot links. So what happens is when that email or that text goes to the person's phone, all they have to do is click on that tagged line and it takes them directly into Acumatica to the data that was generated for it. So if it was a new lead, it would take them to the lead. If it was an order, if it was, let's say you send out a notice to the salesperson when an order that exceeds the credit limit for that customer comes about. They would actually see that. Another one I've seen is when people are within, oh, I don't know, let's say they come within 10% of their credit limit. Somebody wants to be notified so they can look at it and determine whether they want to increase the credit limit or check on what's out there, because they don't want to have a big order come in and have it go on hold and nobody know that it happened. So there's all kinds of, if you can define the experience of what you're trying to look for, you can do it within here. It's kind of a neat activity control. Also, within the purchasing module, for instance, in the full purchasing module, we also have requests and requisitions. It is a requisition system so that you can have multiple people in multiple departments put in requisitions for items, which then have to be approved by their manager. So what happens is as requisitions get entered, they go into a queue. That queue then gets notified to the manager, who then has to then approve. What's nice there is he can take different requisitions from different departments, basically lump them together to summarize them and create one order to a particular purchase order. I have one client that's going to be using that quite a bit because they have like 40 different sites and everybody's got requisitions, but there's only like 10 vendors. So he just links them all together and then creates one big purchase order for it. Under reporting, if I go to, let's see, if I go to finance, for instance, and if I look at the balance sheet, I'll just do that for fun. Everything here is real time. Every single item here on the balance sheet or income statement, you can drill down to see all of the detail. What's nice is if I click on this grouping column here, I can actually create a balance sheet that's grouped by different things. I got it by product category or services. So I can look at different parts of it without changing a line of code, without having to call up somebody and say, hey, I want to see it like this. So you can do kind of like what ifs. What if, why is this different from this? And then you can like I said, you can drill down into any one of these and find all the detail within it. The other thing that's is kind of neat is within the system, we have what are called data views. And in this case, I created one called invoiced items pivot. But you can create pivot tables if you like pivot tables. You can actually go in and create pivot tables based on the data. And that's the neat thing about all of the data within the system is it's all your data. So you have complete access to it. You can take data files, download into Excel or another tool that you might be wanting to work with so you don't damage the data per se. And then you have complete control over what you see within the item. Yeah, that was a big one. So this was the pivot table that I had constructed that was, they had customer and item class and inventory and description. So like I said, it's fairly complicated. But what's different about a pivot table that's generated in Acumatica versus a pivot table that's generated in Excel is that I have the ability, depending on the fields, to drill. If you notice a little finger there again, I can drill into the numbers and see where they came from. Where I believe, though I don't use Excel as much as I probably would like to, I don't believe you can do the drill downs within Excel itself. That pretty much concludes what I wanted to show today as an overview standpoint to get the high points of what we're looking for. If you have additional questions, obviously, please do not hesitate to contact us. You have contact information with Derek. We can be reached at www.donis.com. And please submit any of your questions to the moderator, and we'll try and answer them as we go. And back to you, Derek.
All right, great. Thanks, Bob. Great presentation. Again, I'm going to switch over to make me the presenter so that I can already going. All right. All right. All right, here we go. So questions. Yes, we did actually get a couple of questions in during the presentation. So
okay.
I'm going to go ahead and start with that one for Jay. That way I can let you grab a drink or whatever. So Jay, there was a question that came in about the licensing or how it's purchased again, and specifically they were asking, for example, is there an additional fee related to the mobile app, as an additional feature functionality, or is it just included?
For the most part, it's included. There are a couple of areas where it is an add-on module, and you'll get a lot of inclusion in the distribution package. But there's some functionality that if in fact you want the additional stuff, there are some charges, and we can certainly go into that at any time in the future. But other than that, it's really, you purchase the addition of the software. There's a small price for that, and then there's based on the number of users not users but transactions, I should say, on a monthly basis that determines what the monthly charge is going to be. And now that is considered whatever the most is for like sales orders, purchase orders, invoices, things like that. So it's based on that. But for users, it's totally unlimited. You can have as many as you want. That is internal as well as external, customers, vendors, employees, partners, however you want to do it. Casual users, heavy users, it's totally up to you.
Great. Yeah, it's definitely a unique license or purchasing model, right? I think a lot of us are used to that user or device level of granularity on that. So, but once you get your head wrapped around it, it makes pretty good sense. So.
Yeah, it eliminates the situation where, well, I've got 5 users and the 6th person wants to use it. So either I got to knock somebody off the system so that they can log in and do it. With Acumatica, that is not an issue at all.
Right. It doesn't ding you for growing as a company. Right.
That's correct. Yep.
All right, Bob. I got one question for you as well.
Sure.
So we have multiple warehouses and shipping sites across the country. How does the software manage that? Does it allow me to track where my inventory is across those different locations?
Yes, as a matter of fact, since it's in the cloud, that makes a bigger difference too, because we have multi-warehousing, inventory is stored at each location, and we have a complete tracking system, so you can transfer between warehouses if you do so, because we have what's called a WMS or warehouse management system that's available for the system as well. What's nice is that each warehouse can then, well, you have 2 choices. You can actually do invoicing at that secondary or tertiary location, and it'll then remove the inventory and do the calculations from that location, or they can just do the inventory updates and then do the shipping from the main office. You have that, it's your choice.
All right, cool. Well, those are the only 2 questions we had, and we're coming up pretty hard on our time here, so I'm gonna go ahead and keep moving. So real quick, obviously, Donna's group it prides itself on being a trusted advisor to you all. And so, we try to keep a lot of fresh content for you, and obviously provide these types of lunch and learns, and hopefully someday actually be in person with some of these types of activities. But that said, if you've got any questions or would like to have a little bit deeper dive in the software, we're happy to sit down with you and have that conversation about how we can use these software tools to help you out and provide a more customized demonstration of what it would look like in your environment. We obviously have a biweekly newsletter that we send out. Most of you, if you're on here, you're probably already getting it. Or if you're on here, you're going to start getting it because you're on my list now. So, obviously we send that out every couple of weeks. And with that, we're always producing some new content, new blog topics, industry specific types of things, and just obviously too related to different software packages and just things that are going on, things that are relevant for the time. And also too, we're going to keep doing these lunch and learns once a month, potentially more as we get a little bit more content together. So I'm going to say thanks. We're out of time here. I want to really appreciate all of you guys taking the time this afternoon to be with us. Again, if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to us. And thanks again for your attention this afternoon. Have a good day.